Move over, King Kong. Get ready to meet King Worm. And then we take a look at the story of two friends out for a night drive. They thought they were just going to get a bite to eat, but instead, reality bit their brains in half. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. What does that mean? What's going on? Well, I guess we'll find out. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys had tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. We got a lot of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for the Fluffle's favorite printer, HP 720cc. Woohoo, yeah, wee! This printer's getting rolled into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. It's printing out a big smile. It's very nice, very nice. HP 720cc made a very generous donation during one of our live streams. I don't remember. I think it was for the Thanksgiving live stream. I'm still going through this list here. We got a few more names for their very last shout out. I think we got 2 more names on this list. So HP 720cc, thank you so much for your donation during our live stream. That is why you are going to be our captain, our pilot of this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the live streams or the Patreon or the merch store or anything like that, it's totally fine. It really, really is. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. And before we get started, I wanted to say we're going to have another Dead Rabbit Radio movie night. The Dead Rabbit Radio movie night coming up will be April 24th at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I will provide links. That is for the Patreons only, the people who support the Patreon. Free or paid members can join us for the Patreon movie night. And then the next day, we have a movie morning. That'll be Saturday morning, the 25th. I think we usually start those around 11 or something like that, or maybe 9, I don't know. We'll look and see when the past ones have been. We'll do it around the same time. Those are for anyone who listens to us, especially our international listeners who live in different time zones. Hope to see you guys at either one or both of those movie nights. We don't show a lot of the same movies, and when I say movies, we watch short films. Short horror movies and a little bit of short sci-fi. So you can pop in and out. And, you know, I didn't really talk about what our last movie night. Usually I do a little quick review and just things got crazy. I think we were ending the season and I was getting ready for the Ghost Conference. I will put the last movie night we did, the playlist in the show notes. We did watch some really cool ones. I don't remember any of them. I mean, I have a list of names here. The Cat with the Hands. Don't remember what that was about, but apparently I really liked it. Nice Grill. Oh, that one was really good, about a guy who had a barbecue. This one apparently is relatively famous. I hadn't seen it before, about a guy who has a barbecue. It's a cartoon. He has a really nice grill in his backyard with some very dark desires regarding it. And then The Veil. What was The Veil about? I don't remember. But anyways, I obviously like those ones if I wrote them down. And I also wrote down one called Haw. It was a really good one. It was about 2 guys getting on a ski lift with 3 aliens. It was I really liked that one. I definitely remember that one because I actually think about it from time to time. Aww. So I'll go ahead and put those in the show notes. I usually put the ones I like the best. And not just me, that other people have voted on, you know, when we're watching the shorts. I kind of put the top ones at the top. And then the rest of them are just kind of a mishmash. But anyway, so hopefully you guys can come out. That was like 2 months ago. We didn't do one in March, so that's why I don't remember many of them. But hopefully you guys are able to come out to the Dead Rabbit Radio April movie night and movie morning. That will be the night of the 24th and the morning of the 25th. And if you miss it, you can always just look at the playlist that I post and check out all these short horror movies. Maybe you'll find some of your own favorites. HP 720cc, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to go ahead and toss you the hair hang glider. Why don't you go ahead and jump off the highest point of Dead Rabbit Radio Command while we hold onto your ankles and HP glide us all the way out to Chile. Nice leisurely glide to South America. We're headed out to Chile. Specifically, we're headed to the Chiloé Archipelago. I think that's how you say it. And we land on one of these islands in the archipelago. So we're walking around, and, it's just like a nice little jungle area. There's bananas probably hanging from trees. Probably some lemurs or monkeys or some sort of hairy mammal making noises in the trees. We look up and I go, yeah, look at that. What is that? What is that crazy thing? You're like, well, I don't think it's a lemur. I think those are more in the African area, and it's definitely not a monkey. I go, yeah, no, but what is that? And then I go, I forget that. I'm all eating a banana, and I go, I forget that. If it's a monkey, I'm going to eat his banana. If it's not a monkey, I'm going to eat it anyways. I say, yo, dude, look at that little slug over there. And I point, and you see this yellow slug oozing across the ground. And you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I go, yeah, dude, and look, a bird. I'm just kind of giving up at this point. You're like, what type of bird? I don't know. Use your imagination. I've been using my imagination for the last 7 minutes getting this episode together. It's your turn. See that bird up there? It's pretty cool, huh? And you're kind of bored at this point. You're like, we flew all the way from Dead Rabbit Radio Command so you can point at generic animals. And I'm eating the banana, and I go, oh, just wait, buddy. Just wait. And then all of a sudden, you start to hear a rumble. But it's not just that you hear a rumble. That would be alarming in and of itself. You start to feel the rumble. You're like shaking a bit. I'm sitting there eating a banana on a rock. I'm not feeling it as much because I'm sitting down. Although technically I think if you were sitting down in an earthquake, would you shake more than you would if you were standing up? Because you're technically lower. You're like a good 3 feet closer to the earth. You would say, yeah, probably, Jason. But I will argue with you on this topic I just made up. I think because if I'm sitting down on the ground on my butt, I cover more surface area, so I'm going to jiggle less. You standing up on your legs, really, you're only covering, I'm a size 12, right? So when I'm standing up, I only cover a total of 24 inches of earth. So I'd be shaking more, but if I'm sitting down, I don't even know what my measurements are. I mean, I know I have a 42 waist. I don't think that means 42 inches. Plus, including my thighs and my butt and my 12-inch feet, I'd probably... I forgot, what was I even arguing? Which one was I saying was shakier? I don't know. But anyways, you figure it out. I've been talking for 8 minutes at this point, or 9 minutes, whatever. You do the math. Either way, we're both shaking. And you start to get alarmed, but you're like, well, it can't be that bad, obviously, because Jason brought me here. I mean, after last episode where I took you to Wales and I said, hey, let's hang out in this parking lot all night. We'll see what happens. After that scarring experience, you should know better. But yeah, you're right. You should know better, because we're sitting there and all of a sudden I go, don't look. And I cover my eyes. I put banana peels on my eyes. I'm planning this the whole time. And you're like, don't look at what? Don't look at what? And you're like, trying not to look at the slug. And you're trying not to look at whatever furry mammal was in the trees. You're trying not to look at the bird. But you don't know what not to look at. And I just keep screaming, don't look, don't look. I mean, the easiest thing would just be to close your eyes. You're all looking all around. You're like, I don't know what to look at, so I'm going to look at everything. You just close your eyes. But right before you close your eyes, you start to see the earth beneath our feet begin to protrude outwards. Like a gopher digging out of the ground, you see the earth start to kind of shake and shiver and starts to pop up. Something is burrowing under the earth and coming up right next to us. That's what the rumbling was. And you don't want to look. I'm telling you not to look. You can trust me. But you just can't not look. You're like, what is this crazy thing? Why did Jason bring me here? What's going on? And you're just staring right at the mound. And that's when you see pop out of the earth a massive snakehead. This huge snakehead bursts out of the ground. And there's a moment. there's a moment of quiet as this giant snake has stopped moving. You see its enormous snake nostrils taking a big, deep breath. And then its eyes begin to open. Eyes are already open. No, they burst out of Of course, if you're digging underground, you close your eyes. Everybody knows that. The snake's eyes are closed when it bursts out of the ground. I should have said that earlier. But you see its giant nostrils taking a nice, deep, fresh breath of Chilean air. And then it slowly begins to open its snake eyes, and you're just like, oh, this is why I told you not to look at it. Obviously, I didn't mean the bird. I was looking at the bird earlier. Don't look at the giant snake. Definitely don't look at him as he's opening his eyes. The snake opens his eyes, and you see him start to look around the jungle. And he looks and he sees the monkey-like creature in the tree, and the monkey creature goes, huh? Looks back at the snake, and then that creature drops dead. The snake then looks up at the bird in the tree, and the bird goes, huh? As he looks straight into the snake's eyes, the bird falls dead from the tree. The snake looks over at the slug, who has no choice to look. He doesn't have eyelids, it's just two big eyeballs hanging off some stems, and the snail goes, ooh, and drops dead, and then the snake slowly begins to turn his head to look at you. And I go, don't look at it. Don't look at it. I kind of gathered that everything else that looked at him died. I'm not an idiot, Jason. You're knocking the banana peels off my eyes. I was like, no. I forgot how to close my eyelids. I'm doomed. We both close our eyes as the snake looks directly at us. We survive. And then I go, okay, bro, you can open you can open your eyes now. You're not gonna die if you look at it now. And you're like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I trust you. And I go, I'm all cooking the monkey. The monkey that fell dead out of the tree landed right in my lap. I put a spit through it. I'm starting to roast it. I was like, no, look at my eyes are open. If you're not looking directly at the snake and the snake's not directly looking at us, we'll survive this thing. And look, he's over there. He's looking at like two turtles humping or something. He's totally distracted. Look at him. And so you open your eyes, and you immediately die. It was all psych. I don't eat monkey. What are you talking about? That's disgusting. No, I am eating a monkey, and we do open our eyes, and the snake is being distracted by something else. And I go, because this is the crazy part. If you thought a giant snake bursting out of the earth was weird, and being able to kill anything that looked at it, if it was also looking at the creature, if you thought that was weird, just wait. And we're looking at this thing, and the snake starts to slither out of the hole in the ground that it made, till eventually its entire body is out of the earth, and instead on it. Like, that's a weird way to put it, but anyways. Once the snake is fully emerged from the hole, he bursts into thousands upon thousands of worms. They're all in your mouth. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't tell you to cover your mouth. I clearly covered my mouth there at that point. Bunch of worms flying in your mouth. You're like, oh, you're trying to get the worms out. And I go, don't worry, the worms won't kill you. Like, they're not going to look into your lungs and blow up your lungs. Those are just ordinary worms squirming their way down your throat. Don't worry, buddy. What we've just witnessed is the life cycle of the Piruquina. The Piruquina, a.k.a. the lineage of worms. This is a really interesting cryptid. This is a super short story, but I find it so fascinating. It basically is what I told you. It's a Chilean story. You know, obviously, scientists go, well, it's folklore. It's made up. It's made up. It's a way to explain the volcanic activity around the area. Why people would look at a bunch of black pieces of I don't know what, and go, oh, this must be the home of the Piruquina, and look at all these worms. No, they're not worms, they're actually just volcanic flow in the shape of worms or something dumb like that. That's what scientists say. But the people in the area go, no. I mean, we see that. We can obviously see that that is some volcanic activity. But if you look over here, there's a giant thing of squirming worms, a metric ton of worms. This is the work of the Piruquina. What's interesting about this cryptid is I mean, one, it's a giant snake that explodes into worms. That alone kind of gets me interested. But I also thought was interesting, because I touched on this, I don't know, maybe 500 episodes ago, and I kind of said it on an offhand. It's one of those things, I talk a lot on the show, and I don't remember everything that I say, but every so often something sticks with me. And that was the idea that, people go for all of this cryptid stuff to be real, for all of these ghost stories have to be real, it has to be repeatable, it has to be observable, you have to be able to do all that stuff. But we're talking about something that may not work on the same time scale as a human. If you have a paranormal event that just happens once every 10,000 years, and it's not even paranormal, it's a normal event, but it's so rare that you may see it and no one saw it 10,000 years before that, no one will see it for another 10,000 years after that. You would never be able to repeat that. That would not be repeatable and observable in any way. And it would become the case of legends. The Piraquina isn't that insane of a time period, but what's interesting, this creature only emerges every 25 to 30 years. This is like Jeepers Creepers timeline. And if you had a cryptid that was only seen once every 25 to 30 years, first off, it's in the middle of the jungle. So that's already going to make it hard to observe. But if it only happened 4 times a century, and you could never predict when it was going to happen, that's something that science would write off forever. They'd be like, oh, no, that doesn't sound right. There's nothing exploding into worms. It's just an old legend. But when I made that comment, it was a long time ago, I made a comment about what if paranormal activity or cryptids, they're so rare, some of them, because they don't work on any sort of real time scale. It's not like you can go to the same haunted house every Friday night and you'd see the same ghost. And then I came across this. I think this might be the first time I actually found a real life story that did kind of confirm that theory. Because if you saw it and you survived, right? If it didn't drop you dead on the spot, if you saw it and survived, your kid may be the next one to see it. Or if you saw it when you were 25, maybe you could check it out when you were 50. You may not want to test your luck at that point, but it would be something that only happened 4 times a century. And again, you don't know where it's going to happen. You just know it's going to be somewhere in the region. And this is the life cycle of this thing. What's interesting, because there's not a ton of information about this thing online. I was going through some Chilean mythology recently, and I found some other really cool stories. Apparently, there's some sort of goblin who is like their version of an incubus. And his wife is a succubus, but then it turns out that his wife is actually his daughter. So they're banging all the time, and then they're trying to get other people to join in into their sick fantasies. Prepare for that to be an upcoming episode of Dead Rap Radio. The incestuous goblins of Chile. Crazy stuff. And that little guy, the way that you know he's coming, because he comes for your daughters, right? He gets tired of banging his own. He's coming over to your house to get your daughter, and the way that you know that he's kind of singled out your family is he leaves his own poop on the doorstep. And you come out one day and you just see a yellow smear. And he's just super stinky and stuff. I imagine he doesn't have a balanced diet. I imagine it's not a lot of whole grains. Probably a bunch of disgusting food you only find in hell. And you go, no, this guy pooped on my doorstep. Daughter, you gotta be careful because this guy's gonna come and have sex with you. He's a little goblin man. Be careful. And one of the ways to stop him, now that you know he's coming for your family, is you can leave salt or seeds on your table, and he'll want to count each piece. That's very typical of Western Europe, maybe even Eastern Europe vampire lore, which is interesting that it's all the way over here in Chile. You have a creature that reacts the same way. It needs to count stuff out. If you leave a bunch of little items, it'll stop to count them. But you can do that. But let's say you don't have any salt or you don't have any seeds. Another way to do it is this creature loves clean things. He does poop on your doorstep, but he doesn't mess with anything that's dirty. So part of this lore is that if this guy's coming for if this guy's coming for your daughter, there's an easy fix. You don't have seeds, you don't have sand or whatever. If you poop on your daughter's chest, when this little monster man comes into the room, who again has sex with his own daughter every night, which she's of age, right? I mean, it does make it a little better, right? It's creepier if it's like if it's like, you know what I mean? You're like, Jason, they're immortal goblins. I think they're best to age of consent. I know, that's what I'm saying. She's consenting to it, but she is a demon daughter and his wife. It's a complicated and disgusting story. I think I'm doing it now, actually. I don't know if I'll do a follow-up episode. I forgot what the guy's name is. I'll put it in the show notes. But anyways, if this guy's coming into your house, you poop on your daughter, and then when the goblin walks in the bedroom, he's all, that's disgusting. Because there's poop all over this woman that he wanted to have sex with, so he leaves. That's odd, right? You wonder how much of the story is real, or how much some guy had a real fetish for pooping on people, and he's also a shaman, and they're like, how do we get rid of this demon? And he's like, maybe if I pooped on your daughter, this creature would go away. And they're like, what? Okay. The shaman has a big smile on his face. He's like, I can tell these guys anything. They'll believe anything. Pooping on a daughter. And to be fair, I gotta say this, I don't know why I said this. You don't have to specifically poop on your daughter's chest. Technically, anyone can poop anywhere on your daughter. You're like, oh, great, Jason. That makes it way better. It makes it less disgusting. I don't know why I said poop on her chest. It could be anywhere, but basically, you gotta put poop on your daughter. Fresh poop, too. And none of that store-bought manure. Creature will leave. What was that guy's name? I don't remember. But anyways, I was going to do a separate segment on that. I basically told you all the hits of that one. He's a little demon guy. But I was looking up Chilean mythology the other day, and I came across this story. And I was like, I'll put that name on the show notes, so I won't leave you hanging. But I came across this story, and I go, yeah, that's interesting. If it only popped up once every 25 years at a random location in the middle of nowhere, the chances of a scientist seeing it, or someone who could measure anything seeing it, is slim to none. I mean, most scientists' careers are maybe 30 to 40 years, right? You get out of college when you're 21. Whenever you see a 70-year-old scientist, right, they're usually retired, or they're a professor or something like that. They're not out in the field measuring giant snakes and seeing if they blow up into worms. I mean, if they did, I would take that college class. It's the best college class ever. But most scientists, I think, have a career. Your eyes start to fail, right? You can't look at the beakers as well as you used to. Your knees start to hurt. So when you bend over to look through the microscope, you're all, you're making those unk noises. I'll tell you this, man. If you're so out of shape that it hurts to look through a microscope, you're long past the point of retirement, man. It's time for you to go to the retirement home. But anyways, an interesting story from Chile that some offhand remark I made years ago, which has always kind of stuck with me. It was a really cool little moment, a serendipitous moment. HP 720cc, let's go ahead and leave behind Chile. I'm going to toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter. We're leaving behind Chile. Why don't you fly us all the way out to New Jersey? We're headed all the way out to New Jersey. Specifically, we're headed out to Fort Lee, New Jersey. It's 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. It's a warm summer night. And that's where we're going to meet two men. William, we don't have their real names. We'll call one of them William, and his friend who we will call Frank. And what happens is they're hanging out at I think they started this at Frank's house. They're hanging out at whichever house they are. They're hanging out, and they go, you know what, dude? At this point, it's like 11:30 at night. They go, dude, I'm kind of hungry. You hungry? William's like, yeah, dude, I could totally go for like a burger or a piece of pie or something like that. Frank goes, hey, you know our buddy Sal? He works at a diner. He works by a diner. It's a kind of a drive. It'll be like a half hour, 45 minutes to get out there, but they're open 24 hours. Sal will be there. We'll eat some good food. William's like, dope, dude, let's go. So they drive out to this restaurant. Again, it's a bit of a commute, and they get there, and they're like, oh, dude, this is going to be dope. Late night food is always the best. I've experienced that as well. Del Taco, it's pretty good during the day, but at night, it's magical. Del Taco's delicious after 2 in the morning. It's a reverse Cinderella food. Frank and William get to the restaurant and they order some food, and it doesn't take them long to realize this food sucks. They're like, oh, this is not good food. William said it was bad food even by New Jersey standards. That should tell you something. I don't know, I've never been in New Jersey. They might be super racist now that I think about it. But anyways, they live in Fort Lee, New Jersey. They drove out to this diner. Now they're headed back home. This is one of those interesting stories. William, he wrote this up. He gives some very specific location details to this. So if you're in the New Jersey area and you know a guy named Sal, don't hurt his feelings. Don't let him hear this episode. But if you live in the New Jersey area, you may be able to recreate this. But would you want to? William says we're driving home. We're headed back to Fort Lee. And all we can talk about is how bad the food is. And we actually miss our turn. We're so distracted by thinking about how gross that food was. The burger was full of worms. The chef is a giant snake. We were so distracted by the bad food that we missed our turn. We were supposed to turn on to Route 46. Instead, we turned on Route 4. They're just not really thinking things through. They took Route 4 instead. They realized their mistake, and they're like, well, what do we do? Do we double back? William goes, whoa, look. William's driving the car, I should say. William's driving the car, Frank's the passenger. William goes, whoa, look. There's an exit ahead for Grand Avenue, and Grand Avenue will take us in the direction to get back home. Let's just do that. Frank goes, yeah, sure. Because listen, it's two buddies late at night. At this point, it's about 12 in the morning, 12:30, around there. Just two guys having fun driving around, talking about bad food, but talking nonetheless. They decide, we'll just take the long way. And they weren't in any real rush, right? They're just driving around. But what happens, it doesn't take long for them to realize that something's off. Even though they've taken the Grand Avenue exit, they know that this entire area is pretty developed. Houses and parks and factories and businesses and things like that. A lot of urban sprawl in this area. But as they're driving down Grand Avenue, they see none of that. In fact, it seems like they're driving through a pretty heavily wooded area. Dense forest on both sides of the road. And William's like, hey, Frank, did we miss something? And Frank's like, I don't know. We took Grand Avenue, but yeah, I haven't... All these trees, dude. But just keep going straight. Because we're on the Grand Avenue road. We'll be fine, Frank says. They keep driving. They drive a bit further and they see off in the distance what looks like an abandoned car on the side of the road. William and Frank drive past the car and they both look at it as they're driving past because they haven't seen any other vehicles at this point. It is late, but now they believe they're in the wrong area. There's no other cars on the road but them. All of these trees everywhere. And now you see an abandoned car and William and Frank kind of look over at it as they pass it. What seemed odd to them was it looked not like a brand new car, but it didn't also look like an old beat up hunk of junk on the side of the road that had been long abandoned. Looks like a car that's just been abandoned for a little bit. In fact, the driver may still be somewhere around, but they don't see anyone. They keep driving. But it's not much further during their drive when they see a police car on the side of the road. They see a police car on the side of the road. The lights are flashing. They go, well, maybe we can ask this dude for directions. This police car, the lights are flashing. He's pulled off the side of the road. I mean, he's probably not going to give us a ticket if we just ask where we're at. And Frank's like, yeah, it's not a bad idea. So as they get closer to this police car that's on the side of the road, the police lights flashing in the darkness, they pull up alongside the police car. The driver's side car door is open, but no one's around. William and Frank are getting a little weirded out by the situation. They look around a little bit as they're slowly driving by to see if they can see the officer. They can't. They just keep on driving. The need for directions was not as great as the worry or concern as to what could have been going on there. which is a valid right. If you could, I mean, the cop could be having a heart attack and maybe you could help him, but the cop could be laying there with 5 bullet holes in him, and the dude down the street, that abandoned car, that driver could be hiding in the bushes waiting for you. Who knows, right? All they needed was directions. It wasn't a life and death story for them. They go, I'll just keep driving. It's a good instinct to have. What's interesting is at this point, worry and concern is really what they have, and it's pretty low. But what waits ahead for them on the road is fear. The road curves up ahead. They've passed the abandoned car, now they've passed the abandoned police car. They can see the road curve, and they see the trees lining both sides of the road, but they can't see where the curve leads. All William sees, Frank is just sitting in the passenger seat. William is the driver, he's looking and he sees, shining through the trees, a red light. Not a red strobe light or a red spotlight. What seemed to be some sort of natural red light. Which didn't really make sense. William is looking at this and Frank doesn't say anything. They had both seen the cars and they'd both talked about the cars, but now, as they're approaching this curve, William sees this red light shining through the trees and Frank is just silent. William doesn't say anything. He's not particularly alarmed in this moment, but he does find it kind of odd that Frank has not commented on this new odd sight. The car drives around the corner. It takes the curve towards an unseen destination, and that is when William realizes what the red light is. And to this day, he can never forget it. To this day, it still haunts him. They drive around the curve, and as Frank is sitting there silently, seemingly enjoying a nighttime drive, William looks up and sees a blood-red moon. Now, not a moon that is caused when the dust gets kicked up and it's a rusty red. Not a moon that could be some sort of atmospheric phenomenon. And William knows that for 2 reasons. One, because the moon is so large, it takes up the entire night sky. He said the moon stretched across the horizon. And it wasn't just large, it was close. I could see craters, like with my own eyes, see individual craters in this moon, in our moon. But it's so close to the Earth, he can't see the night sky around it. There's no optical illusion that can cause that. There are moons at the horizon that can look slightly larger, the size of a dinner plate maybe. But for it to consume the entire night sky around it, this was no mere optical illusion. But where does the red light come from, you ask? William knows the answer. He said, I'm looking at the moon, it takes up the entire horizon. I can see nothing but it, stretched out across the tops of the tree line. And the moon is so close, I can see why it's red. It's soaked in blood. He could see rivers of blood stretching out across the lunar surface. Massive craters holding an endless sea of blood dripping over the edges. Dripping over the edges and spilling across the moon. And William is entranced by this sight. He can't stop looking at it. He's driving the car, but he's just staring at this moon. He says the craters themselves look like volcanoes that had erupted into fresh blood, crisscrossing across what was once a virgin white, but now it's streaked in crimson. He's driving and he's staring up at it, and all these things are going through his head. Where did blood come from? Where's the real moon? How did this get so big? What is going on? And all of these questions he's asking himself, but the most important question he is thinking, why isn't Frank reacting to this? I'm over here losing it. I'm staring out the window. Frank's just sitting there. And that's when William kind of comes up with an interesting theory. He goes, maybe I got drugged at the diner. Maybe that's why the food was so bad. Someone had pumped it full of hallucinogens, and they're kicking in now. Maybe that's what's going on. Or, I've lost my mind. I've gone insane. I'm seeing something that is impossible. Absolutely impossible. He knows it's impossible because, one, there's no blood on the moon, but even barring that big fact, if the moon was this close to the Earth, the gravity would be completely wonky-tonky, right? They would feel the effects of the gravity if the moon was actually so close you couldn't see anything but the moon. So he goes, it's either drugs, and I did not do drugs tonight. Someone drugged me at the restaurant. Or I've lost my mind. But either way, William thinks, I'm going to keep driving down the road because obviously Frank isn't alarmed. So I'm not swerving across the road or like imagining a little tiny moon men in the middle of the road and I'm trying to avoid them. Frank's not reacting to any of this. So obviously I'm doing an okay job driving. I'm going to take Frank home and then I'm going to go to the hospital. I'm going to go to the hospital and say, I think you guys need to check out my brain. I think I've gone insane. And he makes that plan. He goes, this is what I'm going to do when I take Frank home. I'm going to get myself checked out because something's really wrong. They continue driving down this road. The forest thick on both sides. The moon hanging just out of reach. Blood splattered across its surface. William can't stop staring, but he knows it's all in his head. Frank, who has been completely silent since they passed the police car, says to William, we're going to die. William goes, Frank, what do you mean? Frank responds, don't you see it? The moon. It's covered in blood. It's headed this way. It's going to crash into us. It's going to kill us all. In this moment, William experiences an interesting feeling. It's relief. Right? Because he knows he's not crazy. Even though he might die, even though he might not make it out of this. His instant response is relief. He goes, oh, so I'm not mentally ill. I mean, I'm going to get crushed by a giant blood moon any moment now. But it's interesting. It's a very human reaction, right? That'd be like if you had a woman who was really wondering, like she's pregnant, but she hasn't told anyone yet, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. She hasn't told her boyfriend. Will her boyfriend leave her? Will they build a family together? And then she gets hit by a car. And as she's flying through the air, she goes, well, at least I don't have to tell anybody. I guess that's a bad analogy. That's a terrible analogy, actually. But you know what I mean? That's a bad analogy. But it's horrible. There's probably a better analogy. You come up with it. You come up with it. I've been talking for over 30 minutes. You come up with the analogy. Email it to me. He's relieved because he knows that he's not crazy. Whatever they're going through, they're going to go through it together. William goes, Frank, dude, you haven't been talking. You haven't been talking for the last several minutes. I thought I was the only one who saw the moon. Thought I was losing my mind. Frank goes, yeah, I kind of was at a loss for words when we turned the corner and saw it, and they started talking about it, and they come to a couple conclusions. They're continuing to drive down this road. They come to a couple conclusions. One, that it can't actually be the moon. Because if the moon was that close, they would be feeling the effects of the gravity. They do also start to go, William goes, I was thinking the food was drugged at the diner. Frank goes, it's actually not a bad theory, right? Because the food was disgusting. But we wouldn't be having the same hallucination. If we were both drugged with something, especially with not us talking about it, we couldn't have affected each other's hallucinations, right? They both saw it separately, and they didn't talk about it until a few minutes had passed. They'd been watching it for a moment or two. They go, yeah, probably not. I mean, we could, the food may have had drugs in it, but I don't think that's what's causing this. So they don't think it's the real moon. They don't think it was the terrible food at the diner. But, Frank goes, that's all well and good. That's not the real moon. It's an omen. We are going to die tonight. You understand that, right? William sits and thinks about it for a moment. He just keeps driving. They're driving for a while, right? Not more than a half hour, but a long time. With this moon hanging overhead, driving down this road. They have no idea where they're at this point. They're definitely not on the exit to Grand Avenue. And that's when they see another curve in the road up ahead. They take the curve. And when they take the curve, it's steep. They notice a change in elevation. They actually start driving up a hill as they're coming around this corner. And now they see in the trees behind them the red light shining through the trees. Just like they had seen on their approach to this wherever. Now as they're taking this other curve and climbing up this hill and driving up this hill, they see the red light through the trees. Once they make it past the curve, once they make it up the hill, the forest abruptly stops. The thick woods of each side simply ends. And the red light shining through the trees vanishes as well. William stops the car, and him and Frank both look back. There's no blood moon. They see the edge of the forest. They see the road that curves back in down the path they just took, but they no longer see a red light shining through those trees. William says, bro, dude, what was that? Frank's like, I don't know, right? But I'm pretty sure we still might die. That had to mean something. William goes, no, I mean, we got to go back. We got to drive back into the woods. We got to see what that was. It doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense. We got to go back and investigate it. And Frank goes, you thought you had to go to the hospital earlier because you were insane. You actually might need to. That's insane. Whatever that was, we got out of it with by the skin of our teeth. We cannot go back. Or you can go back, but you got to take me home. There's no way I'm going back there. There's no way I'm turning around and driving down that hill into that curve. I'm not going back. Fair, right? That's a fair thing. So William takes Frank home. And at this point, it's like 1:32 in the morning. And that is when William says, I'm going to go back. I got to go back. I got to know what that was. So he takes the same road back that he took, right? So once they exit the woods, they're kind of back in our reality, or wherever they were at, they're back here. And it was a simple short drive from where they were at to Frank's house. Not right around the corner, but, like 10, 20 minutes, something like that. So William's like, I'm just going to go back down that road. I'm going to drive back through that forest. I need to know what that was. So he retraces his footsteps. Can't find it. Can't find the woods. Let alone the blood moon. Can't even find the place where there were thick trees on both sides. Again, this is a very developed area. Can't find it. He actually is so intent on figuring out what this was. Later, I don't think it was later that night, but within the next week, he drives down the interstate, gets off on Route 4, takes the exit to Grand Avenue. No forest. No blood moon. Just the boring mediocrity of everyday traffic. William, when he wrote this up online, he posted it underneath the name Tumblr1. William, when he wrote this up online, he goes, over the years, me and Frank have talked about this off and on. It's an experience that we've never been able to completely shake. It's absolutely so bizarre. William goes, I don't really believe in the paranormal. I don't believe in the paranormal. He says, this has to have a rational explanation. I just need to figure it out. And what's funny is that someone who believes in the paranormal, someone who believes in alternate dimensions or the fact that you can travel to another universe, another reality, sometimes just seemingly taking a trip down the road. When you have someone say, let's go back in there, to me, I would say the threat is so high. Because I believe in alternate realities and dimensional portals and things like that. But if you didn't believe in any of that, if you did not believe in anything paranormal, if you saw that as a strictly scientific phenomenon, that there's no horror element added to it, then it does make sense that he would want to go back. You and I may go, what are you? That guy's nuts. He is nuts. He does need to check himself into the hospital. Because I know there are people listening to the show who don't believe in the paranormal. They just like the stories. But again, if you do believe in the paranormal, you go, that's insane. It's just too... Yes, yeah, it would be cool to figure out what that was. I totally understand the investigation part of it. But it's so dangerous. You could get trapped in another dimension and never find your way out. But to William, he's like, no, that's impossible. There are no other dimensions. There's no portals that take you places. He's always looked at this from a very rational standpoint. He goes, I don't even think it was paranormal. It was something weird, and I can't figure out what it was. Frank, on the other hand, William goes, I never really talked to people about this. He's posting this, years later, decades later at this point. He goes, Frank would bring it up from time to time. Frank would be more open about it, talking about it when we're hanging out with friends, talking about like, hey, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you type of thing. He goes, every time Frank brought it up, people either thought he was crazy or super religious. Interesting angle to take on it, right? The religious angle, because I didn't get any of that imagery. But he goes, Frank would talk about it from time to time. No one believed him. So I didn't really tell anyone about it. And I've really been thinking about it myself, trying to figure out what it was. I don't think it's anything paranormal. William ends this by saying, yeah, even though the fact, though, that I do think that there's a rational explanation for this, whatever it was, there is something that kind of sticks with him about the story, kind of haunts him. And he says, even to this day, sometimes when I'm sitting and thinking about what that was, I get this feeling in my gut. There's not a rational feeling. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why I get it, but I'll get this feeling in my gut. This thought pops in my head, and I think, if we had stopped at any point on that journey, if we had stopped the car and gotten out, Frank and I, we wouldn't have made it out of the woods. He doesn't know why he gets that feeling. But sometimes when he's thinking back on it, he goes, if we stopped that car and got out, we would not have made it back home. See, that is a paranormal thought. There's no rational reason as to why you would think that. That still sticks with him. He can't really place that into his world of, this is just an explainable scientific event. I don't know why, but I know if we got out of that car, we never would have made it out of the woods. Which is super interesting, right? Because what about those two cars? Before they entered the woods, see, even before they entered the woods, they already were in an odd place. They took the exit to Grand Avenue, but they were not in the sprawl, the urban suburban sprawl they should have been in. They're driving down a desolate road. No other cars, nature on both sides. They see the forest up ahead, the thick forest, but at the point where they see the cars alongside the side of the road, there's just trees on both sides. There's no red light. They haven't even entered the woods proper. They haven't even seen the blood moon yet. And still they see two abandoned vehicles. One of them looking fairly modern. It's not an old rust bucket. The other one being an active police car with the lights on and the driver's side door open. But no one's seen at either point. And that was before the blood moon. They were already in this new world, this new reality. And those, theoretically put on our conspiracy caps, the drivers of those two cars, they stopped and got out. For whatever reason, we don't know. But they never made it home. Fascinating story. Before we wrap this episode up, I wanted to say something real quick. Sorry that this episode is coming out late. We only did 2 episodes this week. Over the weekend, I had to make a decision between being either a good podcast host or a good friend. It wasn't an easy decision. Someone really needed my help with something. So I wasn't able to do as much prep work on the weekends as I normally do. But next week, we'll be back to the full 3 episodes. We'll have the movie night next week as well. But I just wanted to apologize for that. We only got 2 episodes this week. It's a fascinating story, the story of the Blood Moon, the story of really what was this. My guess would be alternate reality, shifting into some other dimension. But here's the thing. You may go, well, that story was pretty creepy, and you probably should choose being a good friend over a good podcast host. I know, I just consider you guys my friends too, It wasn't an easy decision, but I had to do what I did. You could go, this was them traveling into another dimension, another reality, just like the 2 cars on the side of the road. It'd be interesting to see missing police officer reports, right? From the years 2005, 2006. I wonder how many police officers do actually go missing. I mean, we've lost a lot of NASA scientists recently. We have a follow-up to that story coming up. But who's to say that the police officer went missing in 2005, 2006? Maybe the officer disappeared in 1988. The car is still sitting there. The light's still running. A locked-in-time moment. A question that'll never be answered. It's a creepy story. You think about how often you may drive down roads, which is most of us, sure, but taking that turn, knowing that it'll get you home, but for whatever reason, at this particular point in time, it won't. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to say. This could be one of those events that is once every 25 years. This road only enters up into this dimension once every 100 years or 200 years or whatever. Probably not that long, because there's 2 other cars. You see Ichabod Crane's carriage off the side of the road. But who knows, right? It could be one of those paranormal events. Obviously, Will could never find it again. You go, it's just this alternate dimension. It's this road these 2 young men took. They found themselves in a place with an enormous blood moon. Maybe you'll just be a little less distracted when you're driving. Maybe you'll make sure that you always take the right way home. What's interesting about the blood moon story is there's actually more sightings of this type of phenomenon. And whenever people talk about this, the common response is, oh, it's just an optical illusion. I saw a big moon once. When it's on the horizon, it's as big as your thumb. The people who are seeing this are saying, no, it's not the size of your thumb. We have a report out of Raspberry Landing, Wisconsin, back in June 2006. Same year, possibly, right? He said 2005, 2006. This guy was out camping at Raspberry Landing, and he saw a huge moon in the sky that took up half the horizon. That's not an optical illusion. That's not a slightly bigger moon. He said this moon also appeared blood red. Not streaked with blood. He couldn't actually see the rivers of blood, just that the color itself was blood red. It's just the dust. It happens. I get optical illusions are real, but at a certain point, you go, maybe this is something else. He didn't have that sense of doom, and he wasn't traveling either. He was just camping. How close is Wisconsin to New Jersey? Maybe he saw the same moon these guys are looking at. At least if it happened in 2006. But as you continue... Oh, and he said the moon just was there for a moment. He saw it in the sky, and he was like, what in the world? And it's half the horizon. It's massive. It's blood red, and then it vanished. Just a glimmer. But he saw it nonetheless. What's interesting is you can find other reports of people saying... A lot of times these get lumped in as UFO reports. Because people have thought, well, maybe this is a UFO messing with their brain, like they're actually abducted by an alien craft. But the only way their brain could make sense of it was seeing the moon. If you look around online, and you can check the show notes, I'll have some links. If you look around online, and I did a cursory search, I'm sure if I really dug into this, I could find even more. There are many might be too big of a word, but there are a lot of sightings of giant moons in the sky. They don't have the blood component, But over the years, people have said, I looked out my window and I saw the moon bigger than I've ever seen it before. It was just the size of your thumb. It's an optical illusion, skeptic says. No, it was bigger than that. It was so close I could see the craters of the moon in fine detail. There's actually a lot of reports like that. And I have done this as well. We might have covered something on the show before where we've talked about giant moons. But if we did, I can almost guarantee it was in the context of a UFO sighting. It is a common trope. Because, of course, the moon can't be that big. But you know what can be that big? A alien ship. It doesn't actually take up the whole horizon, but just as close as it is to you, it seems to. And we've talked about, I mean, these giant moon sightings in the past have been discussed in UFO circles as saying, what they actually saw was a UFO craft, but that's so mind-breaking that their brain perceives it as a giant moon. I remember a long time ago, it's really hard for me to even describe it as a dream. It's one of those memories that I can't make sense of. When I lived in Alameda, California, I saw a plane fly overhead so low. I mean, it had to have been maybe 30 feet off the ground. It was like a jumbo jet. It's impossible. It's impossible, right? I mean, technically. I mean, he could if it was crashing, but there was no plane crash. I have this weird memory of that. I forgot what episode I talked about that in. And so I've wondered, I don't think I've ever been abducted by aliens or seen aliens, but if I did, that would be a moment where I would say, oh, that would make sense. My brain, as much as I love sci-fi, it was like 12 at the time, as much as I love sci-fi, I love the television show V, now available on Amazon. We might do a V special episode coming up, honestly. It could break your brain. It could break your brain. So your mind perceives it as something else to protect itself, to save itself from all the mental anguish. But it's also, possible that these are all different phenomenon as well. The people who are seeing the giant moon in the sky, that could be alien abduction. That could be a false memory. It could be an optical illusion. But again, we're talking about moons appearing much bigger than the standard optical illusion where people say, I saw the moon. It was massive in the sky. It's just at the horizon. All of those could be different than the blood moon itself. Because in none of those reports do people say, I felt fear. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like if I stopped the car, I would never be seen again. Are the reports connected? All of these giant moon sightings, are they connected? Or does the blood moon stand alone? A testament to not only how weird the world can get, but a reminder that even on your most safest journeys down familiar roads to get back home, you never know what's lying behind the next curve. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys soon. See you guys next week.